Imagine a world where a single decision can change the course of multiple lives forever. This is the story of Texas Ranger Bobby Paul Doherty and the tragic events that unfolded one fateful night. It was a cold Monday morning, February 20th, when Ranger Doherty looked out of his kitchen window, thinking about the firewood he hadn't cut. Little did he know, his life was about to take a dramatic turn. The previous day had been filled with frustration. A drug raid that had been meticulously planned was called off at the last minute, leaving Doherty and his team disheartened. Doherty despised drugs and their dealers with a passion. His wife, Carolyn, often joked about their strong stance, calling them Mr. and Mrs. Redneck. Even in their quiet town of Azle, drugs were a constant topic of concern, infiltrating schoolyard conversations and causing worry among parents. Doherty's hatred for drugs was personal. He had narrowly escaped death during a raid when he landed on a homemade bomb meant to destroy evidence. On that fateful Monday, Captain Dwight Crawford called Doherty with urgent news. Mary Nasser claimed that Jimmy Baker had tried to kill her the previous night. Baker was a known drug dealer, and Nasser was their bait to catch him. The case had been developing for weeks, and now it seemed like they had another chance. Doherty grabbed his white Stetson and briefcase, ready to leave. Carolyn met him at the door, reminding him of the deacons' meeting at the church that night. As Doherty drove to Denton, he thought about Mary Nasser and the possibility that the deal might be off. But by late afternoon, Nasser called, saying Baker was ready to do the deal that night. The team moved into action, setting up a trap at the local Ramada Inn. Agent Ben Neal, posing as a dealer, was ready to meet Baker and his associates. Baker arrived with only 1 pound of marijuana, claiming he wanted Neal to taste it first. Neal pretended to smoke it and gave his approval. Baker called a friend to bring the remaining 49 pounds. As they waited, they drank beer, passed joints, and listened to Neal's fabricated stories. When Joe Fultner arrived with the rest of the marijuana, Doherty and his team burst into the room, making the arrests. But there was only 19 pounds of marijuana, not the full 50. Baker claimed that was all he could get, leading to a tense situation. Baker agreed to help them get the remaining marijuana from a friend named Greg Ott. The team prepared for another raid, this time at Ott's house. As they approached Ott's house, Doherty and his team hid in the back of a camper, ready to spring into action. The plan was for Neal to negotiate with Ott and leave the kitchen door open as a signal for the raid. But things quickly went wrong. The noise of the camper door falling alerted Ott, who ran to the kitchen door and saw the armed strangers. He grabbed a pistol and ran through the house. Neal shouted, "Police officer! Drop the gun," but Ott continued running. Neal fired a shot, missing Ott, who then headed towards the living room door. Outside, Doherty kicked open the living room door just as a bullet fired from inside hit him above the right eye. Doherty fell, never seeing his killer. Carolyn Doherty received the dreaded phone call that night. Ranger Tom Arnold told her that Bob had been shot in the head. As Carolyn raced to the hospital, escorted by police, she thought about their life together and the dreams they had shared. At the hospital, Carolyn was told that Bob was gone. She felt a sense of calm, knowing he hadn't suffered and that he had died doing what he loved. The next morning, Carolyn saw a picture of Greg Ott, the accused killer. She felt no bitterness, just a profound sense of loss. Bob Doherty's funeral was attended by thousands, including lawmen from all over Texas. It had been 47 years since a Texas Ranger was killed in the line of duty. Greg Ott was charged with capital murder and held without bond. The trial was a complex and emotional affair, with conflicting testimonies and evidence. Ott's defense argued that he didn't know the men were police officers and that he fired in self-defense, thinking his home was being invaded. The jury found Ott guilty of the lesser crime of murder, sentencing him to life in prison. The tragedy left a lasting impact on everyone involved. The story of Bob Doherty and Greg Ott is a reminder of the thin line between duty and disaster, and how quickly lives can be changed forever. In the end, 2 lives were destroyed by a single night of chaos and confusion. Bob Doherty's legacy as a dedicated Texas Ranger lives on. Thank you for watching. Remember, every decision we make can have far-reaching consequences. Stay safe and cherish every moment.